Hey guys, and welcome to Golf Insider. I'm a massive golf fan and want to use this channel to answer golf related questions that intrigue me, covering economic, cultural, social and even political areas of the game. Let's get stuck in. Golfers on the PGA Tour are some of the best paid sportsmen in the world, but how much do they really make per year? You could just look at the official money statistics provided by the PGA Tour, which shows how much prize money is earned from tournaments. However, these figures don't include additional revenue earned by players, as well as their costs from playing the tour. This video aims to delve deeper into this, to try and gain an understanding of how much professional golfers really make per year on tour. Let's start with costs. Every tour player pays $100 per year in annual subs. The only expense per tournament is a mandatory $50 locker room fee. On average, a tour player plays in 25 events per year, meaning they spend $1,250 a year on locker room fees. Tour players are also expected to pay $200 a tournament in tips to locker room attendants and valets, accounting for $5,000 a year. Combine this with subs, every tour player will spend circa $6,350 per year. The remaining costs incurred by tour players varies greatly, as they are almost all linked to their earnings. Additional costs faced by players include taxes, travel costs and the cost of maintaining a support team. This can vary in size but typically consists of a caddy, swing coach, short game coach, trainer, psychologist, agent, accountant and even an attorney. Before working out the size of these costs, let's quickly cover tax. By the way, I'm not an accountant, so I'm not going to even try and consider the tax that international tour players have to pay. In the US, citizens pay 3 types of tax: federal income tax, FICA tax, and state income tax. Only 9 states don't have state income tax, including Florida and Texas, both of which are hugely popular for tour players to live in. Even if a tour player lives in a state which has no income tax, he still needs to pay state income tax for tournament winnings in states which do. For instance, when Bryson DeChambeau won the 2020 US Open, he had to pay New York state income tax, which at the time was 8.82%. State income tax can vary, as low as 3% for the highest earners in Pennsylvania and as high as 13.3% in California. Most states fall between the 2 and 7% mark, depending on income levels. Given how lucrative PGA Tour purses are, most tour players will be paying higher rates of state income tax. Let's estimate this at 5%. There are around 40 tournaments each year on the PGA Tour. Of the states with no income tax, only Florida, Texas and Nevada actually host tournaments. However, they do host quite a few, accounting for 30% of all tournaments on the tour schedule. Let's assume players roughly align their seasons to replicate this percentage split. As a result, for 70% of his tournaments, a tour player will be required to pay state income tax on his prize money. Federal income tax and FICA tax are more simplistic and just cover total earnings. We'll return to tax in a bit. Aside from tax, the size of other costs tour players face are also linked directly to tournament earnings. Caddies are paid $2,000 per tournament, plus 7% of prize money for made cuts and 10% for a victory. Swing coaches are paid between 1 and 4% of tournament earnings, whilst this is a similar figure for short game coaches. Let's take 2.5% for both, so 5% in total. A psychologist and trainer also receive circa 1% of tournament earnings. Therefore, between 14 and 17% of a tour player's tournament earnings go on his support staff. Agents, accountants and attorneys are all paid for a player's non-tournament earnings, in the form of sponsorship and commercial deals. Agents typically receive 10% of all revenue, accountants 5% and attorneys 5%, working out at 20% total. This table shows a summary of the costs we have covered so far. Remember, these won't be the same for every tour player, but illustrate a good estimate of costs that all tour players have to pay. The final cost remaining is on travel, covering flights, accommodation and food. The size of this cost varies and is largely determined by how much a player is earning. The more he's earning, the more he's likely to spend on these things. It's at this stage where it's useful to break down tour players into 4 main categories, which will impact their travel costs and non-tournament earnings. Firstly, your superstar, a household name who regularly wins and has big commercial deals. 2. A top 30 player, a very good player who wins regularly but is not massively known outside of golf. 3. An established member of the tour who wins every now and again. 4. A journeyman who has never won but keeps their card every year. Just to note, I did consider rookies, but there's just too much variation in how they do in their first season. Look at Zalatoris for instance. Superstars will travel to tournaments in private jets or first class, staying in luxury hotels or high-end rented accommodation. Per tournament week, expect a cost of $10,000. Top 30 members of the tour will be a step lower, probably just flying in first class. Expect them to spend $5,000 a tournament week. Established members and journeymen of the tour are likely to vary their travel between first and business class. Spending less on accommodation too, we can estimate $3,000 a week for established members and $2,000 a week for journeymen. I appreciate this table is not perfect, especially when it comes to the support team. Exactly how much golfers pay their support team is really likely to vary on their level, and it will vary from player to player too. For instance, some players may not even employ a psychologist, but for others it will be essential. Let's now consider revenues outside of tournament prize money. Our 4 different player categories are very important here, as the amount of revenue a player can generate varies significantly. A superstar player earns an enormous amount. Expect 2 massive 8-figure deals, one for his clubs and one for apparel. For instance, in 2017, Rory McIlroy signed a 10-year, $100 million deal with TaylorMade to use their clubs and balls. In the same year, he also signed a $200 million extension with Nike, which will see him wear Nike clothes, hat and shoes over a 10-year period. $300 million total works out at $30 million a year. On top of this, superstars will earn circa $1 million per additional corporate deal, where they act as brand ambassadors. On average, superstars will have 5 corporate sponsors. Combining Rory's clubs and apparel deal with an average number of corporate sponsors, superstars can be estimated to earn $35 million a year. For the rest of the tour, commercial earnings are a little different. Commercial deals are broken down into more component parts. For instance, a top 30 player would expect to receive $2 million a year for hat sponsorship. For an established player, expect this figure to be around $1 million and $500,000 for a journeyman. Corporate sponsorship is an interesting one for players who aren't superstars. It can include a chest deal, sleeve deal, and collar deal. When you see tour players with multiple logos on their chest, it's a clear indication that their apparel deal isn't paying much. You'd never see a superstar player with lots of sponsors on his apparel. The big brands pay a lot to ensure it is only their logo and max one other on clothing. Just like a superstar, expect all tour players to have on average 5 corporate deals. When City sponsored Justin Thomas and Xander Schauffele in 2019, when they were 9th and 11th in the world respectively, they paid $400,000. Expect this figure to be applicable today for a top 30 player. For established players, expect $150,000 per deal, which is what MasterCard pay to Graham McDowell. For journeymen, deals are likely to be much lower, as they don't possess the same marketability. Outside of the superstars, club and apparel deals are more standardised, with so many players on tour. A sliding scale exists, with top 30 players receiving around $1 million per deal, with journeymen earning $300,000. Now that we have the generic costs and revenues that tour players incur and generate, we can apply this to 4 real-life examples. I've picked 4 golfers to represent the 4 categories. Jordan Spieth is our superstar, Billy Horschel our top 30 player, Keegan Bradley our established player, and Denny McCarthy our journeyman. Horschel, Bradley and McCarthy all live in Florida, while Spieth lives in Texas, meaning none have to pay state income tax, aside from when they play in tournaments in states which impose it. Let's see how much these 4 really make per year then. Spieth is one of the most marketable and well-known faces in the game, and despite enduring a difficult spell between 2019 and 2020, returned to form in 2021. Let's focus on revenue first. As a superstar, we know he'll have non-tournament revenue at circa $35 million annually. On the course, the official money list showed that for the 2021 season, Spieth earned $6,537,153. Spieth also finished 20th in the FedEx Cup standings, receiving an additional $640,000. In total then, Spieth earned $7,177,153. We can quickly fill in the costs we have already calculated. PGA Tour membership at $6,350 and travel costs at $250,000. Spieth played in 25 events in the 2021 season, meaning he'll have paid his caddy $50,000. Spieth won once in 2021, the Valero Texas Open, earning $1,386,000. His caddy will earn 10% of this, working out at $138,600. His caddy will then earn a further 7% on his remaining earnings. Adding these all up, his caddy will have earned $593,981. The cost of his golf support team is straightforward, 7% of total earnings, which is $502,401. For his non-golf support team, it works out at 20% of non-tournament earnings, $7 million. Federal tax is simple to calculate, with income taxed at between 10% for the first $10,000 earned, up to 37% for any earnings over $523,000. State income tax is at 5%, and for simplicity, we have taken 70% of tournament earnings to reflect 70% of the tournaments being played in states with income tax. Of course, Spieth won in Texas, so he will have paid slightly less tax than estimated here. The table shows total earnings at just over $20 million. Now on to Billy Horschel. Horschel had a good year, winning once, reaching the Tour Champs and rising from 39th to 23rd in the world. On the course, the official money list showed that for the 2021 season, Horschel earned a tad over $4 million. Horschel also finished 9th in the FedEx Cup standings, receiving an additional $1.25 million. In total then, Horschel earned $5,280,906. As a top 30 player, we know he'll have non-tournament revenue at circa $6 million annually. We can quickly fill in the costs we have already calculated. PGA Tour membership at $6,350 and travel costs at $125,000. Horschel played in 25 events in the 2021 season, meaning he'll have paid his caddy $50,000. Horschel won the WGC match play, pocketing $1.82 million. 10% of this is $182,000, and 7% of his remaining earnings is $242,263, leaving his caddy with a total of $474,263. 7% of his total earnings for his support team is $369,663. For his non-golf support team, it works out at 20% of non-tournament earnings, $1.2 million. The calculations for federal and state income tax don't change, so let's fill these in quickly. The table shows earnings at a tad over $5 million. Moving on to Keegan Bradley, a typical established player. He's played every year on the tour since 2011, winning 3 times between 2011 and 2012, including the PGA, as well as the BMW Championship in 2018. 2021 was a solid year with 3 top 10s and a second place finish at the Valspar. According to the money list, Bradley earned just over $2.5 million, finishing 39th in the FedEx to earn an additional $207,000, giving a total of $2,779,089. As an established tour player, we know he'll have non-tournament revenue at circa $2.75 million annually. We can quickly fill in the costs we've already calculated. PGA Tour membership's the same and travel costs this time at $75,000. Bradley played in 27 events in the 2021 season, meaning his caddy will have earned $54,000. Bradley will have also paid his caddy 7% of tournament winnings, worth $194,536. Adding this to the weekly salary, Bradley's caddy earned $248,536 for the year. 7% of his total earnings for his support team is $194,536. For his non-golf support team, it works out at $550,000. Tax calculations stay the same, so let's fill these in quickly. The table shows earnings at a tad over $2.5 million. Finally, we have Denny McCarthy, who can definitely be classed as a journeyman. He joined the PGA Tour in 2018 and has kept his card every year since. His best finish on tour was a tied 3rd at the 2021 Honda Classic. For the 2021 season, this was his only top 10. According to the money list, McCarthy earned $1,212,977, finishing exactly 100th in the FedEx to earn an additional $130,000. In total then, he earned $1,342,977. As a journeyman, we know he'll have non-tournament revenue at circa $1.35 million annually. The cost of PGA Tour membership can be filled in once again, as well as his travel costs of only $50,000. McCarthy played in 30 events in the 2021 season, meaning he'll have paid his caddy $60,000. He'll also have paid his caddy 7% of his tournament winnings, worth $94,000. Adding this to the weekly salary, McCarthy's caddy earned $154,000 for the year. 7% of his total earnings for his support team is $94,000. For his non-golf support team, it's $270,000. The calculations for tax are the same again, so let's fill these in quickly. The table shows earnings at a tad over $1.3 million. I hope you found the figures presented here insightful. Of course, they are just estimates, so don't take them at 100% face value. They do give a good idea of earnings though, and show just how many costs and revenue streams there are. Comparing all the tables, you can see the biggest jump is between Spieth and Horschel, showing just how valuable non-tournament earnings from sponsorship are. I've not even considered the appearance fees superstars and other top players receive to play in tournaments outside of the PGA Tour, such as the Saudi Golf League. All in all, it means that superstars like Spieth could have a horrendous year on the course and still earn significantly more than a less known player having the season of his life. What is clear is that regardless of how good you are, if you're able to keep your card, you'll be earning a very good total wage. If you've enjoyed this video, please do let me know. I'll be back soon with another. Cheers.